Hi, I'm Lydia Salmon. I'm the lead instructor for specialized language training at the Thames Valley District School Board Adult Alternative and Continuing Education. Well, I've been the last 15 years working in English as a second language for adults, and obviously also come from a family that immigrated to Canada. Father, mother, siblings, all of our cousins, uncles, aunts. From that personal experience and the experience that I had in my ESL capacity, it became very obvious that the thing that was having the most impact on adults from out of country, on their self-esteem, on their ability to feel like productive human beings, was the connection to employment. Because we live in a capitalist society, a lot of our self-worth is tied to how productive we are. And over the years of not being able to find work, people can feel very bad about themselves. You ran an article about being underemployed. Even underemployment has a really strong effect on a person's just psychological well-being. And sounds like a very haughty and noble reason to run the courses, but that's precisely why we're doing those.
I know you have different programs going on for the community, for those adults, students. Let's just start with the language for law enforcement. Who is the ideal candidate, and what is this program about?
Ideal candidate. I have had the pleasure of meeting some of the most extraordinary human beings, I think, that have come to Canada. Ideally, they're over 18, probably over 20. They were born outside of Canada. They are physically fit. They are organized and structured people who are looking to help their community. So the benefit that our students bring to the field of law enforcement is that they speak more than one language, they understand a different culture, and obviously if I come to your door as a law enforcement officer and I can't understand what your needs are because I can't understand what you're saying or the way that you're approaching me, then I can't properly interact with you and help you, even though you're part of my community. So that's why this initiative has come on. They leave with 3 certificates from this program. One is the certificate that they get from Thames Valley Adult Education. And on that is their merit points. So every student starts with 100 merit points, and they lose points by handing things in late or not coming to class on time or coming back from break too late or things like that. So everyone starts with 100 points, and on your certificate at the end, it will state how many points you've left the course with. So I had students from the last class who left with 197 of their merit points, and I had other students who left with 34. That evens the playing field in terms of everyone getting credit for the work they've actually done. The London Police Service, which is our partner in this class, allows our students spots in their Citizens Academy. So they get a certificate from the Citizens Academy as well. And the last class, the police chief himself handed our students their certificates for that academy. It was very special. During that time, they learn about all of the different facets of policing. So the forensics unit, they go on a ride along, they get to meet the K-9 unit, they learn about the ins and outs of the London Police Service. So it's a very special partnership there. And the third certificate that they get is their first aid and CPR training. They get a 3-year certificate in that because it's mandatory that you have the first aid CPR training to go into the field of law enforcement. So between those 3 certificates, we hope we've really helped them get an edge on getting a job in this field, if that's the career that they want to pursue.
How many weeks total is the program?
It's a 14-week class. So it starts in September and it will run until December 20th. And 10 weeks of that, they will be attending the Citizens Academy as well as the language training.
How high is the demand for this program?
It's pretty high demand. I've received upwards of probably more than 35 applications, and there are 10 spots in the class. So for every one person that gets into the class, there are at least 2 or 3 others that I've had to say, maybe next time. Not because they're not excellent candidates, but because we have the opportunity, because of the demand, to take the absolute best that we can get into this class.
Somebody watching the video might think, well, police is not for me. Do you also have some programs for language for retail? Can you tell about the partners you're working with and what is this about?
Sure. We've got 2 partners for the language for retail. We've got a partner with the Home Depot, which has 3 stores in London, one in the north, one in the south, and one in the east. And we have another partnership with the Bay, and they have 2 stores in London, one in Masonville and one in White Oaks Mall. Those are 2 separate programs, but they are both language for retail. They just have a very different focus because of the product lines that our community partner carries. So the Home Depot obviously has home improvement product line, everything that you need to make your house better, from electrical to plumbing to millwork to cupboards, kitchens, flooring, where the Bay carries more things to make yourself and your home beautiful. That's how I put it usually. So they have the linens and the small appliances, some electronics at White Oaks, clothing, cosmetics, jewelry, accessories, bags, shoes, those kinds of things. So because the product lines are so different, we run the classes as separate classes.
And this is a 10-week program as well.
Well, they're a bit more of a commitment than 10 weeks because each one of those classes is divided into 3 parts. So the first part of it is the language for retail, and that part is 7 weeks. They come in and for the Bay class, it's a 7-week language portion. For the Home Depot, it's a 10-week language portion. After that, they go to Will Employment Connections, which is another one of our community partners, and they do their job preparation workshop, which is a 3-week workshop where they learn about Canadian business culture, how to do a proper resume, cover letter, how to apply to the jobs, interview skills, and they are then ready to go into their volunteer work placement. So people always ask me, volunteer work placement, do I get money? And I say, no money, honey.
That's why it's volunteer. Now, something interesting is that you mentioned about experience, and this is what we know as a Canadian work experience.
Yeah.
This is what I believe through the language, specialized language training, combine really prepares a candidate or a person really to integrate themselves into the workplace.
Yeah, it's really important that one of the things that they leave with is the certificate of completion from Thames Valley, and on that are the number of hours of retail experience they now have. And many of our students are very successful in finding work in retail at the stores themselves or at other retail stores by the time they finish the course. Some are even successful in finding work before they leave the class. So we've lost a few students through the last little while going to employment while they're still training.
Once again, the ideal candidate for this language for retail program.
Any age, any height, any gender. I have people who ask me, can a woman take the Home Depot class? And I say, absolutely. We've got lots of successful women. Just over 18, born outside of Canada. Any immigration status. A lot of people think these classes are limited only to permanent resident or convention refugee. That's not the case. You can take this class regardless of your immigration status. And all of these classes, the costs are covered by the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration. So you leave with your textbook and you leave with all of the first aid, so on. That training is all paid for during the course of that class. So.
Now, regarding on that, what level of commitment are you looking for in those adult students?
It's a good question. It's important that because we're receiving the number of applications that we're receiving, that if you're taking a chair in the class that you're really committed to staying in the class. We have not had a problem with commitment. People who come, like I said, one of the reasons we lose them is they find work, but that's a good reason to lose someone from a class like this. Otherwise, we screen our candidates really heavily, so I spend a minimum of a half an hour talking to you face to face if you're interested in a class like this, to make sure that it's the right fit, that it's what you're expecting is what you're going to get, and that it fits with your goals. And just in making sure that the fit is correct, you can get that level of commitment from people.
Let me jump to the language for medicine. It seems like we are in retail, we were in the police area, and then you had the medicine one as well. Tell me more about this program.
Well, it's very special. All of the programs are. I keep saying it's very special, but the language for law enforcement, for example, is the only one of its kind in Ontario. The only one of its kind. So there's a similar program that runs in Halton, but it's very limited in who can apply to it. We're the only ones that can take anyone and everyone. The language for medicine is designed for internationally trained medical professionals. So it's not a class if you're interested in going into the field of medicine. It's a class for people who came to Canada as doctors, psychologists, paramedics, dentists, nurses in their home country, and they would like to learn the medical terminology in English. And most of them know the medical terminology because they studied medicine in English, but they'd like to work on accent reduction and proper pronunciation of those terms. So we spend the 14 weeks that class runs, and it starts in January. We spend that time really focusing on making sure that we cover the ethics of medicine in Canada, what the bedside manner would be, the difference between a physician in your home country and here, but also really focusing on the terms and making sure that when you present your exams, the terms are not going to trip you up. You can say them correctly, and you know what all of the terms mean. So our goal is to take the knowledge that they already have and translate it. They leave that class with a certificate from us. They leave with first aid CPR training again, 3-year certification, and quite a hefty medical terminology book. It's the one that's used at Fanshawe, and it's a $200 book at Fanshawe. Even when we've charged for that textbook, we've never charged the amount that it costs to buy it from a bookstore. We've always charged the publisher's cost. We're hoping that program is covered again by ministry proposal, but we're waiting for a response from the ministry on that.
And once again, those programs are at no cost for the students, right? Let me ask you this. Probably is related to the commitment part, but at what stage a new immigrant should be looking at you and say, I'm ready?
It's not for me to make that choice. It's for the learner to make that choice. And I have to say, I come at these programs with a great deal of respect for the learner's own idea of what they can do. We do have qualifications, or sort of a standard guideline of what we're looking for in terms of ability. Benchmark 6, which doesn't mean anything to anyone outside of the ESL world. So an intermediate level of language is required for most of the programs. The law enforcement one, we require a higher level, so a high intermediate, benchmark 7. And that is a working in. So you've finished benchmark 5 or you've finished benchmark 6. People who are in ESL know what those things mean. People who are in the community don't. But I can have a student who has arrived 3 months ago who has enough language ability to function in a class like this. And I can have another student who had very limited exposure to English in their home country who's not quite ready. That's, again, part of the screening process, is that we talk through what you need to be able to do.